My first question to both of you is, as young Republicans yourselves, what is the biggest issue you see facing young Americans today?
Well, thank you, Rick, and thank you all for being here. I love the energy right now. We're all on stage together right now. That's what's different, is that we all recognize that our country's on the line. No matter if we're young Americans or older Americans, I mean, what happens this November will determine our country's future for the next century. So yes, although I'll be the youngest attorney general since Bill Clinton, actually. But, you know, we recognize that there's no more time to waste. I have that sense of urgency that the radical left has infiltrated every aspect of our lives, and they're destroying our country. You know, not just in the government positions, but if you look at in our schools. How many of you are running for school board right now? Anybody? You see, I see a lot of hands out there. And look at what that has inspired. It's because you're trying to protect the future generations, which is the children. And I think that's what's so unique about this moment that we're living in right now is, you know, November 2022 is going to go down in the history books as when America turned the ship around. So that's why I'm so excited to join Blake and Carrie Lake, and let's go win this in November.
Yeah, I think, you know, you could pick an issue, you could pick inflation, you could pick the border, but actually it's this meta issue. We are losing the country. I agree with what Abe said. We are losing the country. When sometimes I talk to, you know, senior citizen voter, and they will say something heartbreaking. They'll say, Blake, I'm just so sad to see what's happening in this country, and I feel bad for you and your boys because you're going to have to live on this trajectory, right? They got all this great America. If you were a baby boomer, everything got better in your life automatically for one or two generations, right? But if you poll young people today, young people, this is right now, if you're a Generation Z or millennial, shout out to the millennials in the audience, yeah. I'm a millennial. Look, the millennials have some problems, but Gen Z is going to save this country. I believe that. Anyone believe that? But young people today, if you poll them, this generation expects to be worse off than their parents, if you can believe that. And what a bizarre inversion of the American dream, right? The American dream is supposed to be things get better generation to generation. But now, especially in the last 21 months, because of Joe Biden's crazy agenda, that's all, it's under assault, really. And so young people, I think, reasonably look forward to the future and see something dark if we don't fix it right now. And it's why it's so good that young conservatives are running for office, because when young people get jaded, the danger is that they follow the siren song of AOC or Bernie Sanders, free stuff, right? Like, I understand why young people might feel resentment because they feel like the country's being stolen right out from under them. But our message is not one of resentment, it's one of hope. 2022 and 2024, if we elect the right Republicans, young Republicans especially, right, we can save this country. And this country's too great to let it slip away from us. So we're not going to let that happen, right?
I feel like as a millennial, I've been through multiple recessions, and you know, started with September 11th, and then the Great Recession, and then Trump brought us back from the brink, and then suddenly we're falling into another potentially Great Recession, all because of Democrat policies. If you follow the line, what can you do to help us, to help our generation and Gen Z survive the incoming storm?
I'll take this one. So, look, it's not rocket science, right? 2 years ago, things weren't perfect, but man, they were pretty good, right? What was inflation 2 years ago? It was like 1.5%. You didn't even have to think about it, right? I am tired of people acting like inflation is some act of God. You know, it's not some horrible hurricane that just happened. We don't have to wonder where it came from. It came from Joe Biden's White House. This is bad economic policy. They caused this inflation. Mark Kelly voted for this inflation. And it's very simple, actually. First, they destroyed our energy independence, right? Biden did it day one by signing that crazy executive order canceling the Keystone Pipeline. But it's like, what did these geniuses think was going to happen when they declare war on oil and gas in a country that's still mostly powered by oil and gas? Gosh, you think that might cause the price of energy to shoot up? Yes, they took gas from $2 to $6. Now they want a prize because it's down in the 550s. Because Biden's selling out from our strategic reserve. Well, everything we need to live, literally every single thing takes energy to make or to move. So when you make energy expensive, because they're so ideologically fixated on their Green New Deal or whatever, when you make energy expensive, you make everything in the economy too expensive. That causes inflation. That was step one. Then step two was they printed $6 trillion. It's kind of an old talking point, but hey, maybe you just shouldn't print and spend money with reckless abandon, right? Normal people understand that when the government prints $1 trillion and spends it, it makes every dollar in your wallet worth less and less. It sends rent prices, prices at the supermarket, prices at the pump to the moon. So the Democrats caused this inflation. Mark Kelly will deny it. He says, oh, inflation is caused when the greedy corporations get together and all hike their same prices. And it's like, no, Mark, you think it maybe had to do with you declaring war on American energy and spending $6 trillion? So all we got to do is throw these bums out, check Joe Biden, and re-implement President Trump's America First economic policies.
What can we better do? What could you do in your high-profile positions to better engage young people in this country, get them more involved in politics, get them more involved in the future of their country?
I think one thing that honestly helps a lot is just being younger, right? We could use some new blood in the U.S. Senate. What do you think? And, you know, there's a reason. Like, you remember when Elizabeth Warren ran for president and she tried to be like AOC and it was really awkward? By being young, I think we can just connect with young people in the vernacular, right? It's just a little bit more native. Like, you can't go try to pander. You can't go say one thing to one group and one thing to another group. I think the lesson, one huge lesson from President Trump is just be yourself. Be yourself, right? Let the chips fall where they may. And so when we're out there talking about issues that matter to all people, but we connect with young people especially, we might not win outright Gen Z or win millennials outright in our elections, but just by virtue of being younger and talking about things in this non-pandering way, I think we peel off interesting numbers here, and we're going to make it very hard for our opponents to win by getting a disproportionate share of the youth vote, not by pandering, but just by being authentic.
Well, I want to recognize, you got to start young. And honestly, that's what's so incredible. I look and I see hope and I see the future right now. And it's because I'm not in it alone. I mean, we had a tough primary, right? I mean, I was running against much more supposed experienced people than myself. But why did people look? Because they're looking towards the new generation for that hope. And that's where I'm really excited right now because, luckily, all across the country, this is a movement. This is not going to stop with this election season.
We are making history. We have more young Republicans running for office this year than ever before since the creation of the Republican Party. And you are two of the most high profile we have. That's why we're here in Arizona. What can we do as young Republicans, as Americans, to get more young conservatives to actually take that leap and run for office like the two of you did?
So we've embraced the youth. I think right now the Democrats are the party of old ideas, and quite frankly, it's quite interesting how young people are flocking to the Republican Party, similarly how minorities have flocked to the Republican Party. We're winning Hispanics, Black Americans are coming, Asian Americans, because we recognize that America First movement is about putting America first. And that unites every single one of us, no matter what race you are, no matter what social class you come from.
Another way to attract young people is to just be an example, right? Abe and I are using our platforms. Look, I don't think we're that controversial. The media wants to say we're controversial. Do you think we're controversial? No. But you know what we are? We're bold. I think we're bold in service of a commonsensical agenda. But here's the thing about being bold in 2022, amidst all this cancel culture, amidst big tech trying to censor us, right? The media is trying to set the narrative. When you speak out in a bold way, but for very commonsensical things, people attack you. Anyone not seen an attack ad against me? Right? Mark Kelly spent $30 million trying to take me out, and it's not working. And I think it's not going to work. But what an example that will set. If I'm just able to get out there, I wasn't an experienced politician or anything like that, but I was a guy who said, I'm not okay with the direction of this country. Let me put my business career on hold. I'm going to go out every day for 500 days in a row and speak from the heart about issues that I think matter, right? Just say the truth and see what happens. If I can survive that, and I think we're on track to win this, what do you think? Then what an example it sends to young people. There are young people who agree with us, who are in high school, who are in college, who feel silenced, right? People who are starting their careers in their 20s. They can't speak out. They can't tweet all the things that I tweet. They don't have that platform. And so this platform that I have as a candidate and then as a U.S. Senator, believe me, because I'm going to be bold once I'm in office too. Once I'm in there, it's gonna be more of the same. It's going to be me speaking from the heart, calling it out as I see it. And if I can succeed in doing that, and I know Abe's going to get in there and do that too, it sends a message to young conservatives that, hey, you too are uncancelable. Don't let your woke corporate boss determine what you can say. Who cares about the peer pressure at school? Just go out and say the truth and defend it, right? We need to raise a generation of people to fight back against cancel culture, and the best thing you can do is just tell the truth and see what happens.
So I want to give you both the floor before we close out the forum discussion. What is a piece of advice you would give a young person in the audience, wants to get involved, doesn't know? What would you say? What would you do? How would you tell a future young Republican, step up?
I mean, I'd say get involved with the campaign, right? You kiddos in the front, you're not too young. We'll put you to work. You can write postcards, you can knock doors, right? I know you've done some of this already. You're never too young to get involved. That's not something I understood when I was a teenager. I actually didn't get involved until, like you, 2007, the Ron Paul revolution, right? That was but it's like I wasted a lot of years. I could have been getting involved when I was 11, 12, right? And that's that we're trying to build that inclusive community for young Republicans to get involved in Arizona. I promise you, campaigns, they're like startups. That's the world I come from, right? Everybody's wearing many hats. There's a lot of different things to do. Never think that you don't have something to offer a campaign, because you do. Find the candidates that you vibe with, find the candidates that you're really excited about, and go to work for them. As a volunteer, as a paid staffer. I guess you can't get paid until you're 16, right? We have some child labor laws. But get involved, and man, I think if people got involved when they're 15, 16, by the time you're 21, you're ready to be on the city council. Like, let's do that, and let's build that kind of Republican Party.
A lot of it is just being good citizens also. And what I mean by that, the best thing I've done is join the military. We have so many veterans here, including our great state senator, Wendy Rogers, over there as well, who's a lieutenant colonel in the Air Force. But, joining the military, going to school, and not caving in to what the left wants us to be. Having that backbone, having that courage, because it really bothers them. That's why they're so bothered by us, because we don't fit their narrative. We don't go by our gender pronouns. we don't think critical race theory belongs in our schools. And I think right now it's about being that teacher, going and being that doctor, going and being in the military, go be that lawyer, whatever you want to be. Do it, and do it being proud to be Americans, because that's what they're trying to take away from us. They're trying to create tribes right now based off race, based off gender, based off social class. We have to prevent that from happening. And once they demoralize us and ruin our American spirit, that's when it's over. But it's not going to be over. You know why? Because all of us are still fighting right here today.